It is now the longest public non-divorce in recent Real Housewives history. Kyle Richards and Mauricio have been separated since October 2023. Mauricio moved out of their Inino home in May 2024. He bought a luxury condo in West Hollywood. He has since been photographed kissing women in Greece, in Aspen, at restaurants, and leaving hotels. Kyle removed Umansky from her Instagram bio and has openly discussed the end of her marriage across multiple seasons of television, multiple podcast appearances, and multiple interviews with Andy Cohen. And yet, as of April 2026, there is still no divorce filing, no petition, no process servers. Kyle has said herself on the Bostick's podcast just recently, well, we're not legally separated, but we don't live together, but we haven't done any paperwork. Every divorce is different. Their relationship is different. And this is just what working for us so far. And I say so far because obviously we're not going to stay in this gray area. This is what we are going to break down today. Not the official explanations which have been polished and delivered on camera with considerable care, but the actual mechanics underneath them. Why specifically has this divorce not been filed? What are they both protecting by staying in this particular gray area? And what does the full picture, the financial exposure, the business empire, the legal trouble, the California community property law tell us about what is actually happening here? Because there is a significant difference between we haven't felt the rush and we cannot afford to move forward right now. And when you look at the full record, one of those explanations fits the situation considerably better than the other. Let's start with the money, because the money is where everything actually lives. When Kyle Richards married Mauricio Umansky in 1996, he was working in the clothing business. She was the one with the name, the connections, and the access. Her sister Kathy Hilton was already married into the Hilton dynasty. Her family had Beverly Hills connections that most people would spend decades trying to acquire. Mauricio had, in Kyle's own words, not a penny when they got together. Her mother lent them money in the early years of the marriage. There was one Christmas, Kyle has said, when they had no money for presents. There was also no prenuptial agreement. Kyle has been explicit about this on multiple occasions. That's not what my main focus is. I mean, if we're not going to be together, I would get divorced 100%. I would not live like that. Because psychologically, I would need to move on. I would never do that just for properties. We did not have a prenup. My husband did not have a penny when I married him. We had to, his grandparents gave us, you bet on him, but that was a good bet. He was in the clothing business when I met him, making no money. And, my mom lent us money when we were first married. There was one Christmas. We didn't have any money for Christmas presents. My mom gave me money, and then his grandparents helped us. So we built everything together. Yes. And there is no prenup. I love when people say, oh, Kyle's just I love when I read these comments. Kyle's just hanging there for his money, honey. He didn't have any money when he married him, and it's our money. And let's be very clear about that. So you would want, it's very clean cut. It's everything is half regardless. That is the public-facing version of the financial situation. It is probably accurate in its broad outlines. It is also almost certainly not the complete picture of why no paperwork has been filed. What Kyle built with Mauricio is not just a marriage. It is one of the most valuable real estate empires in Los Angeles. When Mauricio entered real estate using Kyle's family connections to get his start at Rick Hilton's firm, before eventually leaving and founding the agency in 2011, he built something that has grown to generate billions of dollars in sales annually. The agency has been named one of the fastest-growing private companies in America multiple years in a row. It has expanded beyond California. It has multiple offices nationally. Its sales figures went from $6 billion in 2019 to $11.2 billion by 2021. Mauricio and his business partner together have been described as owning tens of millions of dollars in real estate independently. The combined net worth of Kyle Richards and Mauricio Umansky is estimated at roughly $100 million. When Kyle was asked at the season 15 reunion whether she would be asking for half of the agency if they filed for divorce, she said 4 words that deserve to be examined very carefully. "Well, it's mine." Her sister Kathy Hilton, sitting next to her, asked the obvious follow-up. Does he realize that? That exchange is not a throwaway joke. It is two people briefly acknowledging on camera, in front of millions of viewers, that the primary asset of a $100 million marriage is a question mark in terms of its ownership structure. Kyle is on record saying the agency is hers too. "We started with nothing. We built everything together," is how she has phrased it, repeatedly. Mauricio is on record as the founder and CEO of the agency. How a court would actually untangle that question, and what valuation methodology would be applied to a private real estate brokerage, and what each party's share of the business would look like after a formal division of community property. These are not questions that get resolved quickly or cheaply under California law. California is a community property state. Under California Family Code, Section 760, all property acquired during a marriage is presumed to be community property split 50-50 on divorce. The critical date is the date of separation, not the filing date. From the legal analysis available on this case, October 2023 appears to be the likely separation date based on public statements and Mauricio eventually moving out. If a court accepts that date, then earnings and new assets acquired after October 2023 would generally be classified as separate property. But establishing that separation date formally and doing the full financial disclosure required once a petition is filed is extraordinarily complex when the agency is involved. Under California Family Code, Section 21104, once a petition is filed, both parties must exchange complete preliminary declarations of disclosure, a full accounting of all assets, debts, income, and expenses. For a business, the size and complexity of the agency, that process alone takes months. It requires valuations. It requires forensic accounting. It requires disclosure of every financial instrument, every real estate holding, every deferred compensation arrangement, every partnership stake, every ongoing legal matter. And that last category, the ongoing legal matters, is where things get considerably more complicated. While Mauricio and Kyle have been living in their amicable gray area, the agency has been navigating a substantial legal situation that has run parallel to the entire separation. In July 2023, the same summer the separation became public, a company called Relator LLC filed a whistleblower lawsuit, accusing Mauricio, his business partner William Rose, and the agency of fraudulently obtaining $3.5 million in Paycheck Protection Program loans during the CO1N pandemic. The lawsuit's language was direct. It called the conduct a case about greed during a national health emergency and alleged that the agency had no legitimate need for emergency pandemic relief, given that its annual sales figures had grown from $6 billion to over $11 billion during the same period. Mauricio and the agency denied all allegations and attempted to have the case dismissed, arguing that Relator LLC had no first-hand knowledge of the firm's financial operations. The case went through the courts. The PPP fraud lawsuit was ultimately dismissed in 2025 per court documents. That outcome removes the immediate legal exposure, but the existence of the lawsuit running simultaneously with the separation requiring legal response and resources adding complexity to any financial disclosure process was one more layer on a situation that was already deeply complicated. There were also IRS tax liens. As of January 2025, Mauricio had accumulated $51,532.60 in IRS debt from unpaid taxes across multiple agency offices. 4 new tax liens were filed in December 2024 against him, UMRO Reali Group, and the agency totaling over $20,000. One of those liens specifically included their Enino family home, the home Kyle still lives in, because both their names were on filings tied to the property. Kyle and Mauricio paid off the most significant lien by August 2024 before the new ones were filed. But the presence of these liens means that when a full financial disclosure is required by a court, every existing obligation must be laid out and accounted for. Against this backdrop, we haven't felt the rush takes on a different texture. The agency's complexity as a community property asset is essentially the central problem with this divorce. Kyle has said that the agency is half hers. That is almost certainly the legal position she would take in any formal proceeding. Mauricio built it. His name is on it. He runs it daily. His daughters work there. It is his professional identity. A formal valuation of the agency, a private firm not publicly traded, with revenue that can fluctuate significantly based on the luxury real estate market, is exactly the kind of dispute that generates years of litigation and hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees. Even in the most cooperative, amicable version of this divorce, that process would be painful, which is precisely why Kyle's stated position is that it will be very clean-cut and everything is half regardless. She is publicly staking her claim to the asset before any legal process begins. She is establishing the narrative. And Sutton Straye, who has been through her own divorce, told Kyle on camera what any divorce attorney would tell a client in this position. Just file. I got a bit bamboozled with my ex-husband. I want to tell her, look, just file. I want her to do it first, before he does it to her. Kyle has not filed. Neither has Mauricio. When Kyle was asked directly why not, she has given several versions of the same answer across 2 years. In December 2023, that has not come up yet. We know it is potentially something that could happen with us. We just haven't gone that route yet. In December 2024. It's hard, and it's not something either one of us feels comfortable initiating. We just kind of let it go. In January 2026, on Watch What Happens Live, we still haven't filed, but we have had conversations about what this is going to look like and all of that. And most recently, in April 2026 on the Bostics, we're not going to stay in this gray area, but we're just not there yet. These are the words of two people who are not ready to trigger the disclosure process. The community property exposure is the most likely reason, not the only one. The emotional component is real. Both have said they love each other, consider each other best friends, and have 4 daughters whose lives they are navigating together. Kyle told Bravo in April 2026, "We built this beautiful life together, this beautiful family. I have a lot of respect and a lot of love for him, and vice versa. So there's no reason to fight, and we haven't had a third party pushing us to separate or file a complaint. So we've just been doing it on our own terms, in our own time. But there is also the specific mathematics of California law that makes timing matter enormously. Every month that passes without a formal separation date being established in court creates additional complexity around asset classification. Every earning cycle that occurs while the marriage remains legally intact sits in a gray zone. The agency's revenues during the post-October 2023 period, the ongoing commissions, the business growth, the value appreciation, all of it is cleaner for both parties if the separation date is firmly established and the post-separation period is clearly classified as separate property. Delay, in other words, benefits neither of them in legal terms. But filing immediately when the AY's value and legal status are both in motion could trigger a process that neither of them is ready to finish. And unfinished divorce proceedings in California are potentially more damaging than the gray area itself. There is one more dimension to this that nobody has fully explored publicly. Kyle Richards has something that Mauricio needs, and it is not money. It is the Bravo relationship. Kyle's position on Rob, her paycheck, her platform, her professional identity is entirely separate from anything Mauricio controls. He launched Buying Beverly Hills on Netflix as his own platform. It was canceled after 2 seasons. Without that show, Mauricio's public presence is significantly reduced. Kyle's presence on Rob continues to generate both income and relevance for the entire Umansky family brand. Their daughters have benefited from RHOBH directly and indirectly across multiple seasons. The family name's visibility in the luxury real estate market is not entirely unrelated to Kyle's ongoing television presence. An ugly public divorce, one in which the cheating allegations that Kyle has carefully not confirmed, but also not denied resurface in court documents, one in which the AY's valuation becomes a public legal fight, one in which the IRS liens and PPP lawsuit history become elements of financial disclosure, would damage the UN Sky brand in ways that are difficult to quantify, but very real. The amicable separation, by contrast, costs nothing and preserves everything. Kyle keeps her storyline, Mauricio keeps his image, the agency keeps operating. The daughters navigate an already difficult family situation without the added trauma of a public court proceeding, and both of them keep saying they haven't felt the rush and meaning it, and also meaning something else underneath it. Mauricio told the Mirror in late 2025 that he and Kyle were best friends and that he would never say never about getting back together. "She's amazing. She's my life partner, and that's the bottom line." That same month, Kyle said at Bravo that they were living separate lives, but that they were really grateful that we love and care about each other enough that we put our children and our family first. They are, by any external measure, the most committed former couple in the franchise. They spend the holidays together. They co-parent across multiple properties: the Inino home, the Aspen house, the Palm Desert property. They text almost every day. They talk on the phone multiple times a week. Kyle has confirmed this. Mauricio has confirmed this. Every insider who has spoken to the press has confirmed that no actual antagonism exists between them. That is unusual. That is genuinely unusual. Most people who separate after discovering that trust has been irreparably broken, who watch their spouse photographed kissing other people on vacation, who lose what Kyle has described as her fairy tale in the most public way imaginable, most people feel some antagonism. Unless the situation is structured in a way that makes antagonism financially counterproductive for both of them. Unless what is keeping them in the gray area is not just love and family, but also the very specific reality that the agency belongs to both of them in California law. And the formal process of untangling that is something neither of them has yet found a way to begin without sacrificing something they are not ready to give up. Kyle told the Bostics, "We're not going to stay in this gray area." She was right. The April 2026 update from Bravo confirmed that formal conversations are actively happening and that the paperwork may finally be coming, but the fact that it has taken 2.5 years through airport kissing photos and dating sprees and seasons of television about the separation to get to the point of actively discussing the paperwork. That is not the timeline of two people who simply have not gotten around to filing. That is the timeline of two people managing an extraordinarily complex asset division while trying not to blow up the business that funds everything they both still want. The real reason they haven't divorced is not that they love each other too much. It is that they built something together so large and so entangled that walking away from each other legally requires both of them to agree on what they built. And right now, the number attached to that agreement is the one thing neither of them is ready to put on paper. No prenup, a HUND, 0 million business, IRS liens, a federal lawsuit now dismissed, but active during the entire gray area. California community property law that splits everything 50-50. And two people who text almost every day and spent New Year's Eve together in Aspen. The story they are telling is real. It is just not the whole story.